Have you ever met someone who didn't talk much, but when they did, everyone listened? Someone who didn't try to impress, yet somehow they always stood out? Why is it that some people can walk into a room quietly and still carry a kind of presence that feels powerful, calm, and deeply confident? Is it experience? Is it personality? Or is it something more subtle? Something we often overlook. In a world that rewards loud voices, fast answers, and constant self promotion, there exists a different kind of intelligence, a quiet one, not obvious at first glance, not flashy, not loud, but incredibly powerful and often underestimated. Today, we begin to explore one of the most misunderstood forms of intelligence, quiet intelligence. Not the kind measured by grades or titles, but the kind revealed through behavior, awareness, and presence. Let's start with the first sign, and it may surprise you. Quietly intelligent people don't rush to speak. They pause, they observe, they listen longer than most people are comfortable with. In conversations, many people are waiting for their turn to talk. But quietly intelligent people, they are listening to understand. Not to reply, they notice tone. They notice small changes in expression. They hear what is said and also what is not said. This gives them an advantage because while others are reacting quickly, they are responding thoughtfully. And when they finally speak, their words often feel precise, relevant, and meaningful. Think about it. Have you ever been in a meeting where one person stays silent for a long time, then says just one sentence, and suddenly everything becomes clearer? That is not accidental. That is awareness. Quiet intelligence is not about having more words. It is about needing fewer, but choosing them wisely. Now, let's move to another subtle sign. Quietly intelligent people are comfortable with not knowing. This may sound strange, because many people believe intelligence means having answers. But in reality, true intelligence often begins with curiosity, and curiosity requires humility. Quietly intelligent people are not afraid to say, I don't know. They don't pretend. They don't guess just to look smart. Instead, they ask questions. Simple questions, deep questions, questions that make others think. And this creates a different kind of conversation, a deeper one, because instead of trying to prove themselves, they are trying to understand. And this mindset allows them to keep learning, growing, adapting, while others may stop learning because they think they already know enough. Quietly intelligent people continue to explore, silently, consistently. Over time, this creates a powerful difference, not in one day, but across years. Now, here's something even more interesting. Quietly intelligent people don't feel the need to win every argument. They don't chase victory in conversations. They don't raise their voices to prove a point. And they don't try to dominate discussions. Why? Because they understand something important. Not every argument is worth their energy. They choose carefully. They ask themselves, is this conversation useful? Will this lead to understanding? Or is it just noise? And when they decide to engage, they stay calm, even if others become emotional, even if others try to provoke them. This calmness is not weakness, it is control, it is discipline, and it often makes them more persuasive without trying too hard. Because people trust calm voices more than loud ones. People listen more carefully when they feel no pressure. Now let's slow down for a moment and consider this. In your daily life, how often do you feel the need to respond quickly? To prove a point? To show that you know something? And what would happen if you paused just a little longer? If you listened just a little deeper? That small shift can change everything. Quiet intelligence often lives in that pause, in that space between reaction and response. And that space is where clarity grows. Now, let's continue. Another sign of quietly intelligent people is that they observe patterns, not just events. While others focus on what is happening now, they notice what keeps happening again and again in people, in behavior, in situations. They begin to see connections. They recognize habits. They understand cause and effect. For example, in a workplace, many people may complain about stress, deadlines, or difficult colleagues. But a quietly intelligent person may notice something deeper. They may see patterns in communication, in leadership, in decision making. And instead of reacting to each problem separately, they understand the system behind it. This allows them to make better decisions, smarter adjustments, and sometimes avoid problems before they even happen. This is not magic. It is awareness over time, observation without noise, and patience to see clearly. Now, here is another powerful trait. Quietly intelligent people are often independent thinkers. They don't follow opinions blindly. They don't accept ideas just because they are popular. And they don't reject ideas just because they are different. Instead, they think for themselves. They take time to reflect. They compare perspectives. And they form their own conclusions, sometimes slowly, sometimes quietly, but always intentionally. This can make them seem distant at times, or even quiet in group discussions. But inside, their mind is active, processing, evaluating, understanding. And when they finally share their thoughts, they often bring a perspective others have not considered because they are not influenced by noise. They are guided by clarity. Now, let's pause again and reflect. In a noisy world, being quiet is often misunderstood. People may think silence means weakness, or lack of confidence, or even lack of knowledge. But in many cases, silence is not emptiness. It is depth, it is focus, it is control. Quietly intelligent people understand this. They are not trying to be noticed. They are trying to understand. And that difference changes everything. As we continue this journey, you may begin to see these signs in people around you. Or maybe you will begin to recognize them in yourself, not as something to show off, but as something to develop, something to protect. Because quiet intelligence
Does not demand attention.
but it earns respect over time. And often, the people who are underestimated the most are the ones who understand the most. So the next time you meet someone who speaks less, who listens more, who observes quietly, don't rush to judge. They may be thinking more deeply than you realize. And this is only the beginning. There are still more signs to discover, more layers to understand. And in the next part, we will explore deeper behaviors that quietly intelligent people show in daily life without ever needing to announce it. There is something else you may begin to notice, something even more subtle. Quietly intelligent people are very careful with their energy, not just their time, but their attention, because they understand something most people ignore. Where your attention goes, your life follows. In a world full of distractions, endless notifications, constant noise, many people react to everything, every message, every opinion, every small problem. But quietly intelligent people, they choose. They don't give their attention away easily. They don't feel the need to respond to everything. They don't chase every conversation. Instead, they focus on what truly matters. And this creates a powerful advantage because while others are busy being everywhere, they are fully present in one place. And presence is rare. Have you ever talked to someone who was physically there, but mentally somewhere else? Looking at their phone, thinking about something else, half listening? Now compare that to someone who listens with full attention, who looks at you, who hears you, who understands you. That difference is powerful. Quietly intelligent people bring that presence, not because they try to impress, but because they value depth over distraction. Now let's go deeper. Another sign is emotional awareness, not just their own emotions, but also the emotions of others. They can sense tension in a room. They can feel when someone is uncomfortable, even if nothing is said. They notice small details, a change in tone, a pause in speech, a slight shift in body language. And because of this, they respond differently. They don't push when someone is not ready. They don't force conversations. They don't react aggressively. Instead, they adjust. They stay calm. They create space. And this makes people feel safe around them. And when people feel safe, they open up. They trust. They connect. This is a kind of intelligence that cannot be measured by tests, but it shapes relationships, careers, and entire lives. Now think about this. How often do conflicts happen? Not because of big problems, but because of small misunderstandings, a wrong tone, a quick reaction, A lack of awareness. Quietly intelligent people reduce these problems, not by controlling others, but by understanding them. And that is a powerful skill. Now, here is another quiet sign. They are comfortable being alone. Not lonely, but alone. There is a difference. Many people fear silence. They need constant noise, music, videos, conversations, something to fill the space. But quietly intelligent people, they are okay with silence. They don't run from it. They use it because in silence, there is clarity, there is reflection, there is space to think deeply. They take time to process their experiences, to understand their thoughts, to question their decisions. And this habit helps them grow slowly, but steadily, while others may repeat the same mistakes because they never stop to reflect. Quietly intelligent people learn from their experiences, even small ones, even quiet moments. Now let's pause again and ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence? Without distraction? No phone, no noise, just your thoughts. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but inside that silence, there is something valuable. Now, let's continue. Another powerful sign. Quietly intelligent people do not seek constant validation. They don't need approval for every decision. They don't rely on others to tell them they are right, and they don't feel the need to show their success all the time because their confidence is internal. It is built slowly, through experience, through reflection, through understanding. This doesn't mean they ignore feedback. No, they listen, they consider, but they are not controlled by opinions. And this gives them freedom. Freedom to think differently. Freedom to act independently. Freedom to stay calm, even when others doubt them. And over time, this quiet confidence becomes visible, not through words, but through consistency, through actions, through results. Now, here is something many people miss. Quietly intelligent people are patient, not passive, but patient. They understand that meaningful results take time. They don't expect instant success. They don't rush decisions just to feel progress. Instead, they move carefully. They observe. They learn. They adjust. And they wait for the right moment. This patience can look like inactivity to people who don't understand it. But in reality, it is preparation. And when the moment comes, they act with clarity, with precision, and often with better results because they were not rushing. They were understanding. Now imagine this in real life. Two people start the same job. One tries to prove themselves immediately, talking a lot, taking on everything, trying to be seen. The other observes first, learns the system, understands people, builds awareness. At first, the first person may seem more active, more visible, more impressive. But over time, the second person begins to stand out because their actions become smarter, their decisions become more effective, and their presence becomes stronger without needing to be loud. This is the power of quiet intelligence. It does not rush, but it builds. Now let's slow down again, because this is important. In today's world, speed is often rewarded. Fast answers, quick reactions, immediate results. But depth requires time, understanding requires patience, and quiet intelligence lives in that space. So if you ever feel like you are moving slower than others, it does not always mean you are behind. Sometimes you are simply building something deeper, something stronger, something more sustainable. And that difference will show over time. As we continue, you may begin to recognize these signs more clearly, not just in others, but in yourself, in the way you listen, in the way you think, in the way you respond to the world. And this awareness is the beginning of growth, because once you see it, you can develop it, protect it, and use it wisely. There are still more signs to explore, more layers to understand. And in the next part, we will go even deeper into how quietly intelligent people handle challenges, make decisions, and move through life with a strength that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. There is a moment that most people never notice, a small moment right before making a decision. For many people, this moment is rushed. They react quickly. They choose based on emotion, pressure, or habit. But quietly intelligent people, they slow down in that moment. They create space, even if only for a few seconds. And in that space, they think. not just about what feels right now, but about what will matter later. This is another powerful sign. Quietly intelligent people are thoughtful decision makers. They don't rush into conclusions. They don't jump to answers just to appear confident. Instead, they ask themselves simple but important questions. What are the consequences? What am I not seeing yet? Is this reaction? Or is this clarity? And this habit changes everything. Because many mistakes in life do not come from lack of intelligence. They come from lack of pause, from reacting too quickly, from choosing without understanding. Quietly intelligent people avoid many of these mistakes, not because they are perfect, but because they give themselves time to think. Now, imagine this in daily life. A difficult message arrives. A disagreement happens. A sudden opportunity appears. Most people react immediately, reply quickly, decide quickly, act quickly. But quietly intelligent people, they pause, they step back, they observe their own thoughts. And often, that pause leads to a better response, a smarter decision, a calmer outcome. Now, let's go deeper. Another sign. Quietly intelligent people are very aware of their own thinking, not just what they think, but how they think. This is called self-awareness, but more specifically, it is awareness of patterns inside the mind. They notice when they are making assumptions. They notice when emotions are influencing their judgment. They notice when they are biased or when they are not seeing the full picture. And instead of ignoring this, they question it gently, honestly. For example, if they feel strongly about something, they may ask, why do I feel this way? Is this based on facts or past experience? Could I be wrong? This does not make them weak. It makes them flexible. And flexibility is a powerful form of intelligence because the world is always changing. Situations are always different, and people are always complex. So instead of holding on tightly to one belief, quietly intelligent people are willing to adjust, to update their thinking, to learn continuously. And this allows them to grow faster, even if they move more quietly. Now, here is something very important. Quietly intelligent people do not confuse confidence with certainty. They can be confident while still being open to new information. They can have strong ideas without becoming rigid. And this balance is rare because many people believe they must choose one or the other, be confident or be open. But quietly intelligent people, they do both. And that creates better decisions, better relationships, and better long-term outcomes. Now let's pause again and reflect. How often do people argue? Not because they are right, but because they don't want to be wrong. How often do people defend an idea, even when new information appears? Quiet intelligence moves differently. It is not trying to win. It is trying to understand. And understanding leads to better choices. Now let's continue. Another powerful trait. Quietly intelligent people handle mistakes differently. They don't hide from them, they don't deny them, and they don't let their ego protect them from reality. Instead, they look at mistakes as information, not failure, not identity, just information. Something to learn from, something to improve. This changes everything. Because when you are not afraid of mistakes, you become more willing to try, more willing to explore, more willing to grow. And quietly intelligent people, they use this to their advantage, while others may repeat the same patterns because they avoid facing their mistakes. Quietly intelligent people adjust, refine, improve again and again, slowly, but consistently. Now imagine two people again. One makes a mistake,
and immediately feels embarrassed, defensive, uncomfortable.
so they avoid thinking about it. They move on quickly, but nothing changes. The other person makes a mistake and pauses, reflects, asks, what can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? And over time, that small difference creates a big gap, not in one day, but across months, across years. Now let's go even deeper. Quietly intelligent people are not easily influenced by pressure, not because they ignore others, but because they understand themselves. They know their values, they know their priorities, and they are not easily pulled in different directions. This doesn't mean they never feel pressure. Of course they do. But they don't let pressure control their decisions. They take time. They think. They return to what matters, and then they choose. This creates a kind of stability, a quiet strength. Because in a world where many people change direction quickly, based on trends, opinions, or fear, quietly intelligent people remain steady, and that steadiness builds trust. People may not notice it immediately, but over time, they begin to rely on it. Now let's slow down again, because this part is important. In your life, there will always be noise, opinions, expectations, pressure, voices telling you what you should do, how you should act, what you should believe. And in that noise, it is easy to lose clarity, to react, to follow, to forget what matters. But quiet intelligence creates space, space to think, space to choose, space to stay grounded. And that space is powerful because inside that space, you can hear your own thinking clearly, calmly, honestly. Now, as we move forward, you may begin to notice something. These signs are not loud. They are not obvious. They don't demand attention, but they shape everything. The way someone listens, the way someone decides, the way someone grows. And often, the most intelligent people in the room are not the ones speaking the most. They are the ones observing the most, thinking the deepest, and acting with intention. There is still more to discover. More layers of quiet intelligence that show not in words, but in behavior. And in the next part, we will explore how quietly intelligent people build influence, create respect, and stand out without ever needing to be loud. There is a kind of strength that does not need to be seen, to be felt. You don't hear it in loud voices. You don't see it in constant attention. But over time, you begin to notice it in the way someone carries themselves, in the way others respond to them, in the quiet respect they receive without asking for it. This is another sign of quietly intelligent people. They build influence without trying to control others. They don't demand attention. They don't force opinions. They don't push their ideas aggressively. Instead, they create influence through consistency, through clarity, through the way they show up again and again. Think about this. Who do you trust more? Someone who speaks loudly and confidently all the time, or someone who speaks less, but is thoughtful, calm, and consistent? Over time, people begin to notice patterns. And quietly intelligent people, they build strong patterns. They listen carefully. They respond thoughtfully. They act with intention. And slowly, without effort, they become trusted voices. Not because they are the loudest, but because they are the most reliable. Now let's go deeper. Another powerful sign: quietly intelligent people understand timing. Not just what to say, but when to say it. This is subtle, but extremely important. Because the same words can have completely different effects. Depending on timing, they know when to speak. And just as importantly, they know when to stay silent. They don't interrupt meaningful moments. They don't rush into conversations that are not ready. And they don't force ideas into spaces where they won't be heard. Instead, they wait. They observe. They choose the right moment. And when they speak, people are ready to listen. This is not manipulation. It is awareness. It is understanding how people think, how conversations flow, how attention moves. Now imagine a meeting again. Many people are talking, sharing ideas quickly, interrupting each other, trying to be heard. But one person stays quiet, observes everything, understands the direction of the conversation, and then, at the right moment, they speak. Clear, simple, focused, and suddenly, the room shifts. People listen, not because of volume, but because of timing. That is quiet intelligence in action. Now let's slow down again and reflect. How often do people speak? Just to fill silence? Just to feel involved? Just to avoid being overlooked? And what would happen if instead of speaking more, you spoke with better timing? Now let's continue. Another important sign: quietly intelligent people are selective with relationships, not in a cold or distant way, but in a thoughtful way. They don't try to connect with everyone. They don't chase every social circle. And they don't stay in environments that drain them. Instead, they choose carefully. They invest their time and energy in people who align with their values, people who bring growth, people who bring understanding. And because of this, Their relationships tend to be deeper, stronger, more meaningful. They may have fewer connections, but those connections have more depth, more trust, more honesty. Now think about this. In a world that often values quantity, more friends, more followers, more connections, quietly intelligent people focus on quality because they understand something important. Your environment shapes your thinking. The people around you influence your decisions, your habits, your mindset. So they choose environments that support clarity, not noise, growth, not distraction. And this quiet decision has a powerful long-term effect. Now, let's go even deeper. Quietly intelligent people do not seek to impress. They seek to understand. This changes how they interact with the world. Because when you try to impress, you focus on how you appear. But when you try to understand, you focus on what is real. And reality is where growth happens. They ask better questions. They listen without judgment. They stay curious. And because of this, people often feel comfortable around them, not pressured, not judged, just understood. And that creates connection, real connection. Now, here is something many people don't realize. Influence does not come from being impressive. It comes from being trustworthy. And trust is built quietly, through consistency, through honesty, through presence. And quietly intelligent people, they build that trust over time, without needing recognition. Now let's pause again, because this is important. In many situations, people try to stand out by being louder, faster, more visible. But quietly intelligent people stand out differently. They stand out through depth, through calmness, through clarity. And this kind of presence is rare because it requires patience. It requires awareness. It requires control. Now let's continue. Another sign. Quietly intelligent people are comfortable letting others take the spotlight. They don't need to be the center of attention. They don't feel threatened when others succeed. And they don't compare constantly. Instead, they observe, they support when needed, and they focus on their own path. This gives them a kind of inner stability because their sense of value does not depend on external attention. And this is powerful because when you are not chasing attention, you can focus on growth, on learning, on building something meaningful. Now imagine this. In a group setting, someone shares an idea. Another person immediately tries to improve it, take credit, or redirect attention. But quietly intelligent people, they don't rush. They listen. They add value when necessary. And sometimes, they say nothing at all. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand. Not every moment needs their voice, and this restraint creates respect. Now let's slow down one more time and reflect. What does it mean to truly stand out? Is it being seen all the time? Or is it being remembered? For the way you think, the way you act, the way you make others feel? Quiet intelligence chooses the second. And over time, that choice becomes visible, not immediately, but steadily and powerfully. As we move forward, you may begin to see this more clearly in conversations, in workplaces, in relationships. You may notice who speaks the most and who understands the most. And often, they are not the same person. There is still one more layer to explore, one more piece of quiet intelligence. That brings everything together. And in the final part, we will discover how all of these traits combine to create a life that is not loud, but deeply powerful. A life where intelligence is not shown, but felt and never underestimated. There is something quietly powerful about people who do not need to prove how smart they are. They don't dominate conversations. They don't rush to correct others. They don't try to impress. And yet, when they speak, people listen. When they act, things move. When they decide, outcomes change. This is the final sign of quietly intelligent people. And perhaps the most important one. They take action when it truly matters. They are not passive. They are not weak. They are not too quiet to lead. They are simply selective. A quietly intelligent person understands something that many people miss. Not every moment deserves your energy. Not every argument deserves your voice. Not every opportunity deserves your time. So they wait, they observe, they prepare. And when the right moment arrives, they act with precision. think about this. Have you ever seen someone who talks a lot about their plans, but never actually follows through? They sound confident. They sound ambitious, but nothing changes. Now compare that to someone who rarely talks about what they're going to do. But suddenly, one day, they've already done it. They've changed jobs. They've started something new. They've improved their life quietly. No announcements, no noise, just results. That is quiet intelligence in action. Quietly intelligent people are not addicted to attention. They don't need validation before they begin. They don't wait for approval. They don't chase applause because they understand something deeper. Real progress is often invisible at the beginning, and if you need constant recognition, you may never stay focused long enough to finish. They are comfortable working in silence. They are comfortable improving behind the scenes. They are comfortable being underestimated. And that last part is powerful. Being underestimated is not always a disadvantage. Sometimes it is a hidden advantage because when people expect less from you, you have more space to grow, more freedom to experiment, more time to build without pressure. Quietly intelligent people use this space wisely. They don't waste it. They don't complain about being overlooked. They don't try to force attention. They simply keep going. They also understand timing. This is something that separates average thinking from deeper intelligence. Not just what to do, but when to do it. There is a right time to speak, and a right time to stay silent, a right time to act, and a right time to wait, a right time to push forward, and a right time to step back. Most people struggle with this. They act too early or too late. They speak when emotions are high. They stay silent when action is needed. But quietly intelligent people develop a sense of timing through observation and reflection. They learn patterns. They notice behaviors. They understand people. And when they finally move, it is rarely random. It is intentional. This is why their actions often seem surprisingly effective. But in reality, nothing about it is sudden. It is the result of quiet preparation. They have been thinking. They have been analyzing. They have been learning, all while appearing calm and still. And when the moment comes, they don't hesitate because they are ready. Another important part of this sign is consistency. Quietly intelligent people don't rely on motivation. They rely on habits. They don't wait until they feel like doing something. They simply do it. This may sound simple, but it is incredibly rare. Most people depend on emotions to take action. If they feel good, they act. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel discouraged, they quit. But quietly intelligent people understand something deeper. Feelings change, but direction should not, so they build routines. Small, steady, repeatable actions. Not dramatic, not impressive, but effective over time. They understand that real growth is not loud. It is slow. It is quiet. It is often invisible. And this is why many people underestimate them. Because from the outside, it doesn't look like much is happening. But on the inside, everything is changing. They are becoming more skilled, more focused, more disciplined, more aware. And then one day, the results appear, not as a surprise to them, but as a surprise to everyone else. Quietly intelligent people also take responsibility for their actions. They don't blame others. They don't make excuses. They don't hide behind circumstances. Even when things go wrong, they reflect first. What could I have done better? What can I learn from this? How can I improve next time? This mindset is powerful because it puts control back in their hands. Instead of waiting for the world to change, they change themselves, step by step, quietly. And over time, this creates a strong sense of confidence. Not loud confidence, not arrogant confidence, but calm, stable confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't need to be seen because it can be felt. They walk differently. They speak differently. They think differently. Not because they are trying to stand out, but because they have done the inner work. And this brings us to something important. Quiet intelligence is not about being born different. It is not about having a higher IQQ. It is not about being naturally gifted. It is about how you choose to think, how you choose to act, how you choose to respond to the world. Anyone can develop these qualities. But not everyone does, because it requires patience, it requires discipline, it requires letting go of the need to be seen all the time. It requires trusting the process, even when no one is watching, even when no one is praising you, even when progress feels slow. But if you stay with it, if you continue to observe, to listen, to reflect, to act when it matters, you begin to change. You become calmer, you become clearer, you become more intentional, and people will start to notice, not because you are louder, but because you are different. You react less, you understand more, you speak less, but say more. And over time, you realize something important. You don't need to prove your intelligence. You don't need to show it. You don't need to convince anyone, because real intelligence is not something you perform. It is something you live. So the next time you meet someone quiet, don't assume they have nothing to say. Don't assume they don't understand. Don't assume they lack confidence. Look closer. Listen carefully. Pay attention to how they think, how they respond, how they act. You may be standing in front of someone who sees more than they show, understands more than they say, and is capable of far more than you expect. And if you recognize these signs in yourself, don't ignore them. Don't try to become louder just to fit in. Don't trade depth for attention. Protect your quiet. Develop it. Use it. Because in a world full of noise, quiet intelligence is rare and powerful. Thank you for spending this time listening. If this story made you reflect, if it helped you see yourself or others more clearly, then take a moment to pause and notice the quiet strength within you. And if you want to continue improving your English while exploring real-life ideas like this, stay with us. There is always more to learn.
And sometimes
The most powerful lessons are the quiet ones.